Well, good morning, everyone. On this beautiful sunny day. This is the Memorial Day weekend, and it's a special weekend because tomorrow we honor and show our gratitude for those souls in the armed services and that have done the ultimate sacrifice and have really helped this country move forward and given us the opportunity to be here today. Today's topic is the Path of Selfless Service, and every week we try to we get the songs that kind of relate a lot to the topic, and I've been very moved, and thank you musicians for these songs because they really capture the essence of selfless service. Norm Paulsen, who was the founder of Sunburst, said, "Selfless service creates spiritual evolution." I'd like to share a story that Norm wrote in his book Life, Love, God. And the title of that autobiography, Life, Love, God, that's the nature of the divine spirit, is those words, life, love, and God, are interchangeable. So when we think of, it gives you more of a rich tapestry of this beautiful presence of which we are a part of. Norm was a disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda and lived at the monastery at Mount Washington for about 4 years in the late 40s, just before Yogananda passed. And there was one day where Yogananda wanted the driveway going up to Mount Washington. And if you've ever been there, Mount Washington's on a hill, and that's a pretty long driveway. He said, "Big boy, I want the brush and weeds hoed off the driveway all the way down the mountain to the lower end of the property." And it would be something like hoeing the weeds from the lodge out to the highway or something. It's just a big job. So Norm started the big project and had it almost finished before another disciple was able to show up and help. And then about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Norm said, "I was loading the pickup with the last bit of trash, and I'm going to take this load up to the dump." And the dump in Mount Washington was kind of behind Mount Washington, so he had to drive up the hill. In the meantime, Yogananda had pulled into the property and picked up the disciple and was driving up the hill. And Norm wanted to run and meet Yogananda. And so the car pulled up and Norm was standing there, and Yogananda said, "Look at this wonderful job that he's done, And "Yes, sir," I replied. "It does look pretty good, doesn't it?" And I thought, doesn't he know I've been at it for hours? As Yogananda walked away, the other disciple tried to explain, but was unable to clarify the credit. And Norm said, I wrote that one down in my memory because who was doing all this work for? Well, I was doing it for Paramahansa Ji, that I might help him, yes. But actually, I was working for Spirit, Mother and Father. Surely they knew who had done the job. Letting someone else have credit for work I had done shouldn't have bothered me. I wouldn't let it happen again. I decided it was a good lesson. That was in 1949. And for the many years I knew Norm, he was such a selfless servant. I remember when Sunburst had a bakery in Santa Barbara, and I was working these long hours, and all I had was a pair of tennis shoes, and my feet were killing me. I tell you, working 12 hours on concrete floor with tennis shoes is really hard. And I had this little thought. I said, I need to get a pair of shoes, but probably they're over $35. And at that time, $35 is a lot of money. And we were on what is called common sharing, which means that our needs were provided for, the basic needs. Anyway, I was working, and the back door of the bakery opened up, and it was the west door, and the sun was coming through the door, and Norm walks through the door, and I'm in the middle of the room, and he comes up to me, and he smiles, and he says, "Craig, here's $35, go buy yourself a pair of shoes." And I never said anything to anyone, but Spirit told him that, I needed something. So for me, that was a really good lesson in selfless service, because Norm just walked across the room and walked out. It was just and I reflected on that, and I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. So I have a few quotes from various people about selfless service, and I might want to talk about some experiences that relate to these quotes. The selfless service is such an expansive. To fully understand selfless service, you have to understand the mental process that you experience, or the spontaneous process. You have to understand what intuition is, and also the value of meditation. So all those things go together. Ramakrishna said, "Through selfless work, love of God grows in the heart." And then Mother Teresa has a very humbling thing about selfless service. Many people know the story of Mother Teresa spending years in Calcutta, India, helping the destitute and the on the street people. She said, "The good you do today will often be forgotten. Do good anyway. Give the best you have, and it will never be enough. Give your best anyway. In the final analysis, it is between you and God. It is never between you and them anyway." That's Mother Teresa. Norm wrote another book called Sacred Science, and in that book he talks about a conscious work. And we know from the spiritual traditions in India that work is conscious work, selfless service is embodied in karma yoga, a branch of yoga. And Yogananda and Rideswar and some of the great teachers in India would always insist that activity and meditation go together, and that you can reach a point where the activity and the meditation, the activity gives us wisdom, and the wisdom and the meditation come together, and they, at the unity, when we're unified with the Divine Spirit. It's called by many names cosmic consciousness illumination. But even when you're illuminated, you still may choose to work and serve, because that's the nature of divine spirit. So Norm said, do good deeds with love and service for others less fortunate than yourself. And this was very well exemplified in the life of Mother Teresa, and also in Norm's life, helping guide these young people on the path of spiritual evolution in the early days of the community. Focus on your environment, and that includes minerals, plants, animals, and people, finding ways to alleviate suffering. Your own pure self will come forth to do works of charity, unselfishly giving, no thought of reward. Now, the pure self, Norm defines as it's the spark of the divine, or the I am presence, that essence that is given to us within our soul, that point of light. Each soul is individual, unique, and each soul is beyond the physical body or duality, the physical body. But the soul can be influenced by life in the physical body, its cravings, wants, and it's very important to follow a good path and make positive choices in your life. Sometimes those are very difficult. Yogananda, I was in a neighbor's house and I saw this little, it was like a little, she had a little quote. It was on a shelf and it just struck me. I was like, he said, life should be chiefly service. Without that ideal, the intelligence that God has given you is not reaching its goal. When in service you forget the little self, you will feel the big self of spirit. So Yogananda is saying the same thing that Norm's saying. The big self or the little self could be likened to the ego, and the big self is likened to the pure self. As the vital rays of the sun nurtures all, so shall you spread rays of hope in the hearts of the poor and forsaken. Kindle courage in the hearts of the despondent, and light a new strength in the hearts of those who think they are failures. When you realize that life is a joyous battle of duty and at the same time a passing dream, and when you become filled with the joy of making others happy by giving them kindness and peace, in God's eyes your life is a success. Yogananda. I don't know if you know this lady who walked for peace back from January 1953 till her death in 1981. She walked with basically the clothes on her back and wore out 7 or 8 pairs of shoes, walking over 25,000 miles. Her name was the Peace Pilgrim, and she had that emblazoned on her tunic that she wore. As a young girl, she was very from a not wealthy family, but just very, very high society, fun-loving, and something changed in her life in her early 40s, where she had this awakening experience where she could not see any separation between people, and she could not see, and the word peace and came to her, and she developed this deep, profound sense of peace. And her message was, I shall go forth and not ask for food, not ask for shelter, but I should go forward in the spirit of peace. And for the next 26 years, her needs were taken care of. And toward the end of her life, she was able to talk about her experience. She said, "Pure love is a willingness to give without a thought of receiving anything in return. Every good you do, every good that you say, vibrates on and never ceases. Never think of any right effort as being fruitless. All right effort bears fruit, whether we see the results or not." I have realized that the feeling of compassion and love must be present, and the intuition opened up within us in order to be a selfless servant and not wanting anything for ourselves. And I know that the ego can interrupt wanting to get recognition. And as I've been working on this program, I've had the opportunity to help people open the door for this elderly man and at the hospital, and make sure that he got service before I got it, because I was basically the first in there. And opening doors for people is kind of my thing, but I realized that being Libra, I need to balance that. I can't go out of my way and do all these acts of charity and kindness, and without the ego saying, "Boy, I'm amassing a lot of good brownie points with the spirit because I'm doing all this good stuff." And then I thought about Jesus was furious with the quote Pharisees, are the people that thought that were flouting their religion in public, doing their alms, and it was so important that they wanted to be recognized for being something special. And Yogananda says, or Jesus was saying, just go into your closet and pray, because it's between you and God, not between you and the general public or whatever. So meditation strengthens the voice of intuition. It connects us to the pure self. It brings us inner peace. So as we move into our quiet meditation period, let's be aware of our posture and sitting straight and not resting our back against the chair, or sitting with our knees lower than our hips. And we can take a few deep breaths. And then and I notice it myself, I have a little tension in my shoulders, we can just drop our shoulders and kind of move our shoulders gently back. And we can rest our hands on our legs gently in the up position. Palms in the up position is more receptive, and then palms in the down position is more grounding. And be aware of the place between the two eyebrows and down from the crown, which is the pituitary center within each one of us. That's the center, and it's the center of our soul, and the center of where the pure self appears as light. We'll try to keep that focus as we breathe. and always keep that focus. And those that have a technique, mantra, whatever, they can use that now as we move into our silent period. The peace, the peace pilgrim began her life's journey on January 1st, 1953. She was 45 years old. And if a lot of us don't remember, I was just a kid. That was a time of great upheaval in our country, with the Cold War beginning and all the things that were happening with the government, and suspicions and conspiracies, and people getting arrested for leaning toward the communists or something. So she started on January 1st. Yogananda passed on March 7, 1952. And then 53. He walked across the country 7 times. During the summer, she was in the north. She went into Canada. In the winter, she was in the south, Kentucky, Mississippi. She crisscrossed the country in Canada 7 times. In 1964, she reached the 25,000-mile mark, and from then on, she didn't even count. She was on the street, didn't drive, and she was taken in. She said she went as many as 3 or 4 days without a meal, but people were so incredibly giving, and she gave them a sense of peace, and they were able to help her with selfless service and kindness. But in order to accomplish that incredible task, she had a deep realization before she started out, and knew that she was going to complete that mission. We have the wonderful blessing of living in this country and having some basic freedoms that most of the people in the world don't have, in terms of our beliefs and freedom of worship. There's some strain with that right now, but I think ultimately love will prevail. Norm has said that meditation can take you to the door of realization, but it is your divine service, your selfless service, coupled with a meditation, that takes you through into the presence of our Mother and Father. Selfless service has been so much a practice for thousands of years in the ancient cultures, and especially in India, where it is called Seva. And the rishis and the ancient ones have taught the importance of combining selfless service action with deep meditation. These are the keys to spiritual evolution. When we think of these beautiful, incredible bodies that we live in, and what goes on, we have really no control of our breathing, digestion. I know that some of the ancient yogis were able to control the breath, slow the heart down, but not without the realization of who is the actual doer, who is actually doing the selfless service to us, which is Divine Spirit. And Divine Spirit has everything except our love. That's been said many, many times. So that love freely given to Divine Spirit through our meditation and through our service attracts spiritual evolution, attracts Divine Spirit, Mother and Father to us. When we look at that sun that shines every day out in the sky, and the miracle, if you study it, of the movement of the earth and the solar system, the stars, the incredible intelligence that has to be present in order to keep everything in balance. We can just be humble of the incredible selfless service of the divine consciousness, which permeates everything. So on that note, I would like to lead us in a closing prayer. You can follow me if you'd like. O Great Spirit, thank you for giving us these wonderful bodies that we may serve you and tap into the intuition which resides in the pure self within us, that we may be guided to perform selfless service. We thank you so much, and we are grateful for our life and for being here and the opportunity to share and to grow in your spirit, to help others, to ease suffering, and to create a heaven upon this earth. Amen.
Help me to see what you want me to see. Help me to be your hands. Help me to hear what you want me to hear. Help me to be your hands. Hands to build a wonderful new world of peace and harmony. Help these hands to build a world that is filled with love and beauty. Compassion and empathy, help me to be your hands, striving for love and bliss Let my goal be this, help me to be your hands. Help these hands to make the world a better place for all to live side by side. Help these hands to shape a peaceful place for our spirits to reside. Help me to know and share your love. Help me to be your hand. Help me to be the person I should be. Help me to be your